Flattening a bench top is not an easy job. I've never done it before. So there is a potential for complete and utter catastrophe. But the benefits, if I get it right, outweighs the danger from getting it wrong. So I am actually going to flatten this bench, and I'm hoping it'll go okay. I'm really hoping it'll go okay, because if not, I've just ruined about half the work I've already done, and I would have to then reassess my plans and reassess what I would do with all of this beautiful Tasmanian oak. So I think I will flatten it and get it right, so there's less potential for catastrophe in the future. When I put the aprons, when I cut the slots and the pockets and everything for my tail vise, when I put my bench vise on, all of those things. I really think that it would be best for me to flatten it. So, having said that, what I'm going to do is grab a round of 22 caliber ammunition, put it between my teeth, bite down on it, flatten this thing and get it spot on. Wish me luck. See, to aluminium, I'm in Australia, we call it aluminium, not aluminum. We've got two aluminium rails, one on the left, one on the right, or one in the front, one in the back of the workbench. Geometry, you know, it's all sort of arbitrary. I set those rails up so they are level with my, well, set it up with a spirit level, so they're level with gravity. And I set them up so they're both level with each other, true with each other. We'll call that the x-axis. Now, I got my slide. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. It's kind of not the easiest. I got my slide. We'll call this the gantry. Now this gantry can slide along the x-axis, and my router can slide along the y-axis. And in this configuration, the x and the y are level with a spirit level. Okay, so then let me pause so I can get my router. Okay, so my gantry can slide along the x-axis and it will stay level throughout the entire range. My router can slide along the y-axis so it can be level across its entire range. So I've got it level and true in the x and y. I can then set my cutter bit depth, which we'll call the x-axis, to a particular height. So, well, to whatever height. I set it to be less than 1 millimeter below the lowest part of the bench. We'll call that the Z height. So we've got X, Y and Z all level. So this router bit, or the base of this router bit, right here, is never changing height above my garage floor, or never changing height above whatever reference surface I used. Okay, it was gravity, I used a spirit level. So the only thing that could change is the surface of the workbench. Okay, I am a happy woodworker, very pleased woodworker. It worked. Check it out. Right here, I'll use my verniers, right here is a step where I couldn't route the complete edge. So the top bit right here is the original size, height of the workbench. Now in this side it is, well, it's 1 millimeter, a little bit over 1 and a half, we'll call it. Right, so it means that I've decked off a depth of cut of 1.5 millimeters over here. Now, on the opposite edge, diagonally opposite edge, this is where the router cut. This was the original workbench, and this is considerably more than 1 millimeter. It's more like 7 millimeters. So what that means is that I've got this workbench now flat and true. I checked it with my spirit level and it's good. Okay, now let's discuss the potential dangers I had of working with this thing. It ranges from minor pain in the backside, blast, I have to fix it, to catastrophic failure, swearing and, well, injuries as well. Okay, what you're looking at here is the aluminium rail for the X gantry. Really what we've got here is a human numeric controlled machine, an HNC. We've got an X-axis, a Y-axis and a Z-axis. It's powered by it's controlled by my brain, human, or more or less, and numeric control as in I control the speed and the feed rate of the router. Human numeric control. Okay, now the issue I had with potential risks. These rails here may have moved. When this would move, it then means if it moves down, I would have a deeper cut on my work surface, and I would then have to redo the whole thing to get it true, hoping that my rails wouldn't move again. So I would lose, you know, best case scenario there is that I would have to do it again and I'd lose like another couple of millimeters of the thickness of my bench. So no real big deal, but still something to avoid. Now the other issue that I had is if this Z height, Z offset here, this Z offset here, or Z height here, moved. Again, what would have happened is that the workpiece would then be different again, and the same issue with raising or lowering of the rails would encompass. Well, I would have a variable level, or the router bit could move up and down in the collet, and this is the dangerous, almost possible catastrophic issue that I have. I'll just release this. There we go, bang. The way a router works, we're still here, yep. The way a router works is this, right? What you have is you have a collet. The router then fits into the collet and it is threaded or screwed into the router. Now these collets can come loose. Probably not with this router. It's a new purchase. I wanted one because well, my old one was a menace. It had the potential to remove fingers or at least take large chunks out of my fingers. So the router bit can move out of the collet. Now that could just result in a deeper cut in one area of the bench and a shallower cut in other areas of the bench, like moving the Z height, because obviously the Z height is maintained by the router and the collet is stationary on the Z axis when the router bit is attached. However, I'm using this thing here, which is a pretty lethal looking piece of equipment. This is 25 millimeters in diameter. This is going to be spinning. That's a large, heavy piece of metal spinning very quickly. Now what can happen is that if this moves quickly, then it can dig into the surface of the workbench and something's going to give. It probably will not be the router. Most likely it won't be the router bit. So something else has to give. It's either going to be me, i.e. the router catches and gets pulled out of my hands, or it's going to be the workbench. the chances are is that it would be me, because this would dig into the workbench and stop. I would get a huge gouge in my workbench, and there could be other issues with injury. So that was what I was most frightened about, and that is something that I really didn't want to experience. I've experienced it before, and it's less than pleasant. So that was my concerns, but I'm relieved that I got it all sorted out, and now we're good to move on. Again, I've got some more sanding to do, and I have to clean up the rails. Have to clean up the bits that I didn't get to, and then I have to square things, and then it's time to turn this bench into something a little bit more like me. I said earlier that well, this bench is beautiful. It's heavy, and well, it's going to be beautiful. It's a little bit like me, as in it's heavy and simple. But now it needs some bad habits, some vices.